Look, Dean Henderson, we didn't mention this a little bit earlier on. He gets a third Premier League start tonight. David De Gea on the bench. Well, he's not included, is he, at all this evening? Maybe it's an injury, but it's a big game coming up at the weekend. A big opportunity for Henderson to try and take.
Yes, of course. I think he'll probably feel like he's on trial every time he plays because it has been so infrequent that he's been given a start. I know that he's played the odd game in the Cup and in Europe, but in the Premier League, where all eyes will be on him, and he'll probably feel that pressure, but probably seeing the way he interviews, seeing his character, I think he'll thrive. I think he wants this opportunity. He'd be so hungry for this opportunity. He'll feel like he's desperate to be number one. That's why he stayed there for the chance tonight in the Premier League. And I would fully expect him to show a commanding performance. I'd have had him in from the start. I personally think that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer should have given him his opportunity when De Gea was so out of form, but he stuck with De Gea, and that's his prerogative. But personally, I really like Dean Henderson as a goalkeeper. I think he will be Manchester United's number one very, very soon, but I'd have given him a lot more opportunity than he's had this season.
I'm interested to see how he does because he has played in the FA Cup, of course, in cup matches, but Europa League as well, but hasn't really had a really, one of the more solid Premier League teams to start against. It's usually a team in the relegation zone that he plays against. Usually doesn't have too much to do. In the few moments he's been called upon, I'm thinking against Sheffield United in particular, he hasn't performed in the way that you would expect a Manchester United number one to do. So I'm really intrigued to see how he gets on this evening, and if he can get a run of games, possibly some good form, he might change the picture in terms of England's goalkeeper situation for the Euros as well. And we'll discuss our squads in the next hour. I should tell you, Rotherham have taken the lead away from home against Sheffield Wednesday through Michael Smith. Sheffield Wednesday 0, Rotherham 1 in the Championship. Remember, live commentary right now on talkSPORT 2. Bristol City 0, Bournemouth 0. We're discussing Bruno Fernandes as well. He starts tonight for Manchester United, but for the first time pretty much during his Manchester United career, there are some maybe negative headlines, let's call them that, around his impact in these games against Big Six teams. I think it was off the back of his performance against Chelsea where he lost possession 20 times in the game. He's only had one goal in the 7 games that Manchester United have played against the established Big Six, if you like, this season, and that goal came from the penalty spot. People are looking at him and saying you've got to take hold of these games, particularly if the likes of Paul Pogba are out or other players are out of form. He's been magnificent for Manchester United. But you need to play in big games. You need to perform in big games to be considered, Manchester United worthy, if you like. Some calling him a flat track bully.
Look, I think his body language has been really interesting in the last month, I would say, that I feel like I've really noticed it when a pass that he plays isn't controlled properly, or a pass isn't given to him in the right area, or even a pass that's not given to him but given to a teammate that's not good enough on an attack. He sort of turns away in disgust, throws his arms up in the air. I think he's getting frustrated with the players that are around him. Personally, it's because I think he's at another level than the other players. Maybe Rashford not included. But I would say he's at another level to the other players, and they're not up there with him. And in big games, if you're a Chelsea, if you're a Liverpool, if you're a Manchester City, then you target Fernandes. You make sure that you cut off the channels to him, that you get tight to him, because if you nullify him, you pretty much nullify Manchester United. Rashford's not the same if Bruno Fernandes isn't getting the ball as much, because Bruno Fernandes has been the one that spots the runs really early of Rashford, has been getting him in behind, been slipping him down the sides of the fullback. I just think that he needs better players around him for him to thrive in the big games. If you put Kevin De Bruyne in that team, well, teams would just target Kevin, and he wouldn't be the same. But if you go and target Kevin De Bruyne at Manchester City, well, then suddenly Gundogan's free. And if you target him, well, then Mahrez is... there's just so much talent in and around their best players at City. It's not like that at Manchester United. You can't tell me Fred, McTominay, Greenwood, Martial... they're not at the same level as the City players in and around De Bruyne as Fernandes has got at Manchester United. And that's the difference. In the big games against the elite, if the players around you aren't up to the level and teams can target you as a player, then it is very, very difficult to be dominant.
Managers were saying at the start of the season fatigue was going to play a part.
Yeah, he don't miss a game.
He doesn't. He rarely misses a game. But also, it's that mental fatigue of knowing the responsibility to carry the team in many ways is on you.
But do you not think his body language? Have you seen that?
I have. He gets very frustrated when the ball is lost either by a teammate or by himself, or if someone doesn't make the run he wants them to.
Now, I would like that if I'm a Manchester United fan. I would like to see that because it shows how much he wants to win, how much he wants the standards to be right up here. I think he's like that in training. I can imagine him being a bit of a nightmare in training if it's not played to him or it's not played right or the move. I bet he's a nightmare to play with because he moans probably quite a lot in training. I can see it. But that's what you need in all top squads. In teams I've played in, there's always been a player in the squad that sets a standard, that demands a standard within training, within games. And I think it's up to the club, the manager, the other players to raise themselves up to his level and up to a level where then he's not the only player that can be targeted to stop that team.